Welcome to the Bobtail Help Desk. This is a series of videos where we show you how to get started and be successful in the trucking industry in the long run. I'm Caroline, I'm the marketing manager here at Bobtail, and we offer a hassle-free factoring service for truckers with no contracts and no hidden fees. I've recently done some digging into the different legal structures that you can choose for your business, and since we've been getting a lot of requests for information about how to get started in the trucking industry, I thought this was a really good topic to start with because it's really the biggest decision that you make when you're first starting your new company. I recently wrote an article on this. You can see it on our website at bobtail.com/blog. So let's get into it. What is the best legal structure for a new trucking company? I want to start off with a disclaimer that this video is not a substitute for legal advice. If after watching this video, doing your own research, you still have questions and you're still unsure, we highly recommend that you do seek out some legal counsel or legal service before you jump in. So what even is a legal structure? The legal structure of a business is something you choose when you register it for the first time, and it determines certain aspects of your business when it comes to taxes and liability. The reason that this is important to get right the first time is that it can be costly and time-consuming to change it in the future. Here are the main types of legal structures. Now, there are more than this, and there are more complications than just these 5, but these are the 5 that we're going to talk about: sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company or LLC, corporation, and cooperative. We'll start with sole proprietorship. This is typically the easiest and simplest structure to set up. In fact, it's the default in many states. And it basically means that there is no separation between you and your business operations. And this is the main reason that we don't recommend starting as a sole proprietor. The reality is that there's a lot of liability in the trucking industry. As careful as you are out on the road as an operator, other people are not. And accidents do happen. And when they do, with vehicles as big and heavy as semi-trucks, really terrible things can happen, and you can be held responsible for any damages that occur. And that's why it's important to have some kind of legal separation between you as a person and your business. Because if you don't, then your personal assets could be at risk. Things like your home, your vehicles, anything else, any other assets that you have could be at risk if your company as a sole proprietor is held responsible for legal damages. Another reason we don't recommend working as a sole proprietor is because it can be difficult to gain access to certain financial instruments or services. So, for example, investors are much less likely to invest in your company if you're only set up as a sole proprietorship as opposed to an LLC or a corporation. It's also harder to get access to financial services. For example, some factoring companies won't work with sole proprietors. We do at Bobtail, but it can be more difficult to get access to services like that. A partnership is like a sole proprietorship in that it's relatively easy to set up and it's relatively a simple structure, but it means that there's more than one person, right? A partnership, you have to have a partner. There are different types of partnerships. So a general partnership, everything is shared 50-50. And in a limited partnership, there can be a difference in how much one person owns. Maybe you just started the business and your partner is simply investing in you for a certain percentage of owning the business. Generally, in a limited partnership, you have one person who's managing all of the operations and the other person is contributing in some other way. When you set up a business as a partnership, there is, again, very little separation between the owners of the business and the business itself. So again, if something were to happen, then the personal assets of the partners or owners could be at risk. A limited liability company or LLC is the most common structure for small carriers, and for good reason. It's pretty easy and cheap to set up. And like a sole proprietorship or partnership, you don't have to involve a bunch of people in setting up your business. But it does separate the owners of the business, also referred to as members, from the business itself. So there's legal separation between what those people own and what the company owns. This is why it's the most popular structure for small carriers, and we often recommend that you set up as an LLC when you're first starting out your trucking company. It does take a little bit more paperwork and time and investment to set it up, but it's very nominal and well worth that very small investment. An LLC can be formed by just one person, or it can be formed by multiple people, but it's important to know the tax implications of both. So a single member LLC or an LLC founded by just one person is seen very similarly as a sole proprietorship to the IRS. And if you set up your LLC with your spouse as another member, it still may be considered a single member LLC. When you start a business as a corporation, it's a completely separate entity from the people who own the business. There are multiple types of corporations: C Corp, S Corp, B Corp, and all of these have different implications when it comes to taxes and legal responsibilities. Like LLCs, the business in a corporation is a separate entity from its owners, and so gives that protection and legal separation between the owners of the business and the business itself. A corporate structure can be advantageous when compared to an LLC. For example, it's much easier to transfer ownership of shares in the business in a corporation than in an LLC. So if you're ever thinking of selling part of your company or transferring ownership to another person, then a corporation is probably a good structure to look into. It's also easier to raise capital as a corporation. So if you're thinking about getting investments and innovating in the space, then again, a corporation can be advantageous. Requirements like having a board of directors can make having a corporation and maintaining a corporation more costly in the long run. Another legal structure you might consider is a cooperative, also known as a co-op. This structure is a business where many people own the business. Usually its employees, its customers, or other interested parties own a small piece of the company. And this collective of people will vote on major decisions and operations in the company. Cooperatives often have some kind of social or cultural purpose behind them, some kind of shared value that all of these people together are trying to make a reality. Cooperatives can be complex to set up. They require a voting system, a board of directors, and a way to get all of these different people involved in the operations of the company and the decision making. But cooperatives can be advantageous. A lot of the time they're eligible for government funding that other legal structures are not, and they can be a really good way of pooling resources with many people. So which legal structure should you choose? Well, that will depend on your situation as a business owner, how much time and resources you have to put into it. It's important to remember that there is a lot of liability involved in this industry. So if you're starting a trucking company, we highly recommend that you choose a legal structure that separates your assets and liabilities from your company's assets and liabilities. So a structure like an LLC can be really simple to set up. It's relatively low cost when compared to a corporation or a cooperative. And that's why most small carriers choose an LLC. But if you're still not sure where you should start in making this really important decision, please do more of your own research. Talk to other experienced owner-operators and trucking company owners. Seek out legal advice. Do everything that you can to be comfortable with your decision because it is a really important one. If you're starting a trucking company and you want some advice or you have some questions, please comment below. We really want to know what questions you have so we can address them in the next videos. See you next time.